He's not quiet because he's out of moves. Aubrey Drake Graham has been moving like a man who already knows the last page of the book, and the part that should scare people is it isn't even about the next song. It's about the next signature, the kind of signature that changes who owns the story, who gets paid first, and who gets cut out when the lights go off. Because while the timeline is busy arguing about whether Drake is falling off, he's been stacking a weird little trail of clues in plain sight. The gambling stream era that keeps turning into headline fuel, the Nocta sports pipeline that keeps putting him next to real power, the venue and events play that screams, "I'm building my own stage," and the media side that quietly turns a rapper into a rights holder. And if you think all of that is random, that's the first thing I need to disrupt right now. Drake's next move isn't music rollout behavior, it's exit plan behavior. And the stakes here aren't just, will Drake drop? The personal stake is his leverage in whatever deal comes next. The culture stake is whether hip-hop is still allowed to crown artists who don't need the machine. And the system stake is nastier. If Drake pulls this off, it's going to expose how many wins you've been sold were basically rented. So keep that in your head, because in a few minutes, I'm going to zoom in on the one part of this whole chessboard that people keep laughing at and show you why that's the exact square the game is being decided on right now, while everyone else is watching the wrong piece move. Drop your thoughts in the comments, hit like, and subscribe. Let's get into it. Now, let's put the board on the table the right way, because this story only looks messy if you insist on reading it like a rap fan and not like a business. Drake is at the point of a career where the next album isn't the main asset anymore. The main asset is Drake himself as a cash engine. Music, tours, brand deals, apparel, content, licensing, and whatever else he can turn into recurring revenue that doesn't require him to rap like he's in a basement at 2 a.m. trying to prove something. And yes, he's still Drake, so the internet is going to do what the internet does. Clip a moment, twist a quote, call it cringe, and then act shocked when the same moment runs up millions of views. That's not an accident. That's a distribution strategy, pretending to be a meme. It's the same reason his name keeps ending up attached to spaces that aren't rap on paper. Sports, nightlife, streaming content, brand collabs, because the long game is ownership and leverage, not applause. And this is why the Drake's next move conversation matters right now. If you believe the next phase of hip-hop is going to be owned by artists who control their IP, their platforms, and their relationships with the money, then Drake is either about to become the case study or the cautionary tale. Because if he locks in the right structure, he doesn't need the label the way labels need him. But if he locks in the wrong structure, he becomes the biggest paid employee the industry's ever seen. And those are two very different retirements. So the question isn't, is Drake dropping soon? The real question is, why does every public move he's making look like it's designed to raise his valuation, widen his footprint, and make his brand look less like an artist and more like a holding company? Start with the surface stuff, the things you can actually see without needing a guy who knows a guy. First piece of evidence, the streaming and clips machine around Drake keeps acting like a side quest, but it keeps producing the same outcome. Massive reach, fast headlines, and a constant reminder that Drake can walk into a non-music space and still bend the conversation. You've seen the stake-adjacent streams and the viral clip culture around them, the moments where he's laughing, trolling, talking reckless, doing the whole "I'm just here" routine. And every time people call it corny, the clip farms go to work like little unpaid interns for his brand. Ask yourself something simple. If the goal was look cool, why would you even do that kind of content? But if the goal is prove I can manufacture attention on demand without dropping a record, then it makes perfect sense. Attention is leverage, attention is bargaining power, and attention is the one resource the clip farmers can't stop printing for him, even while they swear they hate him. Does everybody understand how crazy that is? Second piece of surface evidence, Nocta and the sports world. Drake has been glued to that lane for years, not just as a fan in the stands, but as a guy positioning himself next to athletes and brands that live on global scale. The Nike relationship, the Nocta drops, the courtside optics, the "I'm with the league" energy. That's not just fashion, that's legitimacy borrowing. When you see him tied into that pipeline, what you're really seeing is Drake making sure his brand reads as lifestyle and culture, even on days when he's not rapping. And I know the response already. Bro, it's just clothes. Cool. Then why do these moves always seem to cluster around moments when the public is debating his music, his relevance, or his momentum? Because apparel isn't about streams, it's about margin, it's about repeat customers, and it's about something labels can't give you, value that doesn't shrink when you stop dropping every few months. That's why the sports lane matters. It's a proof of concept that Drake can sell product without begging hip-hop for permission. Third piece of surface evidence: venues, events, and the own the stage play. Drake's involvement in live spaces has been publicly discussed for a while, including his ties to Toronto's history venue with Live Nation as part of the broader live event ecosystem. And even if you never stepped foot in that building, the point is bigger than the address. Owning or partnering in venues and event spaces is a cheat code because it flips the usual model. Instead of an artist renting a stage, the artist becomes part of the stage's business. You don't just sell tickets, you participate in the infrastructure that sells tickets. So when you see Drake pop out at events, curate moments, attach his name to spaces, and make his presence feel like a scene, you're seeing a man trying to control where culture gathers. And if you control where culture gathers, you control who gets amplified, who gets co-signed, and who gets to feel like they were outside. That's power, not rap Twitter power, real power. Now stitch these three surface pieces together and tell me it's random. Viral stream clips that prove he can print attention, sports and apparel that prove he can print money outside music, live spaces that prove he can print leverage in the touring economy. That's not a scattershot celebrity life. That's a portfolio being built in real time. And the funniest part is the Suit Circus still wants you to think the only thing that matters is first week numbers, like it's 2016 and everybody's still pretending bundles don't exist. Meanwhile, Drake is acting like a man who's trying to get paid for the next 10 years in one move. And oh, do I have more for you, because this is where the Drake stans and the Drake haters accidentally become the same person. Both sides keep staring at the music like that's the only scoreboard. And I'm telling you, the real scoreboard is what happens when the cameras are off and the contracts hit the table. Also, to the people who swear every move he makes is desperation, I need you to stay locked in, because the next part is where that whole talking point falls apart. In a second, I'm going to bring up the reactions from the culture, athletes, podcasters, insiders, even fan communities, and you're going to notice one thing they all keep revealing without meaning to. Everybody is already treating Drake like a business, even when they pretend they're only talking about rap. Now we get into the cultural layer, the part where the story stops being Drake did a thing and starts being the room reacted. First cultural signal is how other platforms keep turning Drake moments into referendum moments. When Drake shows up on a stream, the conversation doesn't stay on the stream. It hits hip-hop pages, sports pages, gambling discourse, masculine energy pages, meme pages, the whole ecosystem. And the key detail is how quickly people with something to sell attach themselves to the moment. The clip farmers don't just repost, they frame, they build a narrative, they pick a side, they put a caption on it like they're a judge, and then they act shocked when the caption becomes the headline. That is cultural evidence of power, because only a small number of artists can do that now, step into a random format and still become the center of the week. Most rappers can't drop an album and do that. Drake can blink on camera and do it. That's why brands want him and why the Suit Circus has to negotiate with him like he's not just an artist, but a media event. Second cultural signal is the athlete adjacency and how it changes the way people talk about him. When Drake is around athletes, the talk shifts from who won a beef to that dude is connected, and connection is currency. Athletes are the most protected celebrities in America. Leagues, PR teams, corporate partnerships, community optics, it's a whole machine. When a rapper stays welcome in that machine, it tells you something about their long-term brand safety and their long-term marketability.
And before somebody jumps in my comments like, so what, he sits courtside? No, I'm talking about the way those spaces treat him like an equal stakeholder in culture, not like a guest. There's a difference between celebrity fan and brand partner. There's a difference between he's here and he belongs here. That difference is what matters when you're trying to pivot from artist money to ownership money. Third cultural signal is how the fan communities themselves have started talking like analysts, even when they don't realize it. Go look at the way people break down his moves now. It's less "this song is hard" and more "what does this mean? What's the play? Is this a rollout? Is this a negotiation tactic? Is he teasing a tour? Is he positioning for a deal?" That's not normal fan behavior. That's investor behavior with emojis. And here's the nuance part, because I'm not going to sit here and act like every Drake move is genius chess. Sometimes content is just content. Sometimes a stream is just a stream. Sometimes a brand partnership is just a check. That's real. But here's where that counter-argument dies. The pattern is consistent. The timing is consistent. The way the outcomes stack is consistent. And the way the conversation keeps drifting toward what is he setting up is consistent. So either Drake is accidentally stumbling into a perfect portfolio narrative for years straight, or he is doing what high-level artists do when they stop chasing hits and start chasing structure. And the culture is already telling on itself, because the same people who clown him for doing a gambling stream will also quote him like a prophet when he posts a vague caption. The same pages that call him washed will post 10 clips of him in the same day. The same podcasters who swear they're tired of Drake will spend an hour debating what his silence means. That's not fatigue, that's dependency. So when I say Drake's next move changes everything, I don't mean he's about to drop a song that makes your jaw drop. I mean he's about to do something that makes the Suit Circus nervous, because it forces him to treat him like a partner, not a product.
And right here's the gear shift, because if we stay in culture talk, we miss the real story. The real story is the money rails under hip-hop. Who owns what, who collects what, and who gets trapped even after they win. Let's talk industry. Here's the pattern interrupt. The biggest trick the Suit Circus ever pulled was convincing fans that success is loud, public, and measurable only by charts. Because if you're busy yelling about chart positions, you're not asking the questions that actually matter. Like, who owns the masters? Who owns the publishing? Who owns the brand marks? Who controls distribution? And who has the right to license the work when the artist is asleep? Angle 1 is ownership and rights. In the streaming era, the real asset isn't just the song, it's the rights bundle around the song. Masters, publishing, neighboring rights, performance royalties, sync potential, catalog valuation. That's the language that turns an artist into an asset class. And what Drake has that most artists do not have is scale plus consistency over time. That is exactly what makes private capital sniff around catalogs and brand portfolios in the first place. Because if you're a fund, you don't care about rap debates. You care about predictable cash flow. You care about a catalog that still gets played when the artist is on break. You care about licensing potential for film, TV, games, ads, arenas, and whatever new platform comes next. And you care about whether the artist has enough control to package that bundle cleanly. That's why Drake's public quiet can be loud in the boardroom. If you can show you don't need to drop constantly to stay relevant, you're basically proving your demand is durable. Durable demand is what raises valuation. Angle 2 is distribution, leverage, and platform power. Most artists are stuck in one lane. They need DSPs for streams. They need labels for push. They need promoters for tours. They need brands for checks. And they need media to talk about them. Drake has been slowly building alternate routes in each lane, a direct-to-audience attention engine through viral content moments, a lifestyle brand lane through apparel and partnerships, a live event lane through venue ties and event culture, a media lane through production and content attachments. Each lane reduces dependency, and the more you reduce dependency, the more you can negotiate like a partner. That's the part fans don't clock. Labels don't fear artists who are popular. Labels fear artists who can leave.
Labels fear artists who can take the audience with them and still monetize them somewhere else. Now add one more layer, narrative management. The clip farmers in the think piece economy are not neutral. They are a market. They eat what gets clicks. And Drake is one of the few artists who can feed that market without giving it music. That means he can keep his name hot while keeping his most valuable asset, the next major release, the next tour, the next deal, off the table until the terms are right. So when you see him do things that look like side quests, what you might really be seeing is leverage building, because in negotiations, perception matters. If you look like you need the next check, you get bad terms. If you look like you're expanding, you get respect. Drake keeps positioning himself as expanding. And look, I want to be clear. I'm not in those meetings. I don't have Drake's contract on my desk. This is analysis based on how these industries work and how his moves line up. But the logic is simple. If you're Drake and you know your catalog and brand can print money for decades, why would you keep letting the Suit Circus dictate the cut like you're some new kid begging for playlist love? This is where private equity rumors and big investment talk always pop up around mega artists, because the math starts mathing. A stake in a brand portfolio, a stake in a catalog vehicle, a stake in a media company, a stake in a live events pipeline. Suddenly, the artist isn't just an artist. They're a bundle of revenue streams that can be modeled, financed, insured, and sold. And here's the part that should make the comments section catch fire. If Drake can package all things Drake into a structure that investors understand, then the whole label model looks a little dated. Not useless, not dead, but exposed. Because labels are used to owning pieces of artists who don't have options. Drake is building options. So the deep question becomes, what is he actually building toward? What is the end of this? Is it just more deals, more brands, more moments? Or is it one big pivot where he turns from the biggest rapper into the biggest rights holder in rap? Now we land the plane with the truth bomb, and I'm going to say it plainly, because dancing around it is how people stay confused. What I think is happening here is Drake is preparing for a structural move, a move where the headline won't be New Album Friday, it'll be New Business Reality Monday. And if he does it the way I think he's aiming to do it, it changes everything about how rap stars age. The reveal is this: the next move isn't a song, it's a valuation event. Meaning, Drake is making public choices that make his brand look like it can live without constant new music, so that when it's time to negotiate, whether that's with a major, a distributor, an investor group, a strategic partner, or some hybrid deal we haven't even seen popularized yet, he walks in as a proven multi-vertical company, not a rapper with a hot quarter. And the consequence is brutal for the whole ecosystem, because if Drake can get paid like a company, every other top artist is going to ask why they're getting paid like labor. If Drake can secure ownership and control while still using the machine when it benefits him, then the myth that artists have to choose between independent and major starts
to collapse. The future becomes who has leverage, who has rights, who has distribution, who has brand lanes. And if you're the Suit Circus, that's a nightmare, because your whole playbook is based on artists needing you more than you need them. Drake has spent years building proof that he can route around the usual choke points: viral attention without radio, product without a new single, cultural presence without press runs, live event gravity without begging for a look. That's the play. Now, could I be wrong and it's just a normal cycle where he chills and then drops? Sure, but even that doesn't erase the bigger point. The infrastructure is already there. The lanes are already built. The culture is already treating his moves like signals. And the more he normalizes that, the more he trains the market to value Drake as an entity, not a moment. That's why the laughing misses the mark. People are laughing at the part that's loud, the stream clips, the memes, while the real move is quiet, proving he can sustain demand and then cashing that proof in when it's time to sign the next paper. And once that happens, you're not debating who had the better verse. You're debating who still owns their life's work. So yeah, let's do the hero and villain part honestly, because in this story, the hero isn't the nicest guy.
The hero is the guy who does every job to 100%. Music, brand, media, touring, relationships, and never lets one lane collapse just because the internet got bored for a week. That's Drake. He stays working even when he looks like he's relaxing. That's the whole trick. And the villain isn't one rapper on a song. The villain is the Suit Circus, plus their little sidekicks, the clip farmers, the system that wants artists focused on applause so the contracts stay lopsided. They love when you argue about aura and cool because it keeps you from arguing about splits, rights, and control. Look back at what we covered. The viral content lane proves he can spark attention without begging the old media machine. The sports and Nocta lane proves he can sell lifestyle, not just music. The venue and live space lane proves he's thinking about owning parts of the stage, not just performing on it. And the cultural reactions prove everybody can feel the shift even when they can't name it. Here's the contrast that sums it up. Most rappers want a hit so they can get a deal. Drake wants a deal so he can decide what a hit even means. And that's why I'm not panicking for him. Because if your quiet era still prints headlines, if your side lane still print money, and if your brand still pulls rooms towards you, then you're not losing steam, you're reallocating it. The only people who should be nervous are the ones who built their whole identity on Drake needing the same system they need. Now, does that mean Drake is invincible? No. Every empire has weak points. Overexposure is real. Public perception matters. Bad partnerships can stain a brand. And the internet is petty. They will hold on to one awkward clip like it's a felony. But the larger direction is clear. He's building a life after drop culture. He's building a position where retirement doesn't mean disappearing. It means collecting. So if you're watching this as a fan, the win isn't just the next record. The win is watching an artist turn fame into structure. That's the part the culture has to learn how to respect again, not just who rapped best, but who owned best. And this is only the start, because the next phase of this story isn't going to play out in a diss track. It's going to play out in announcements, partnerships, and weird little signals that look insignificant until you connect them. Watch what happens around the next tour cycle. Watch what happens with Nocta expansion. Watch what happens with content and production credits. And watch what happens anytime you hear reportedly tied to a major renegotiation or a new venture vehicle. That's where the real story is going to be. So, do me a favor. Stay sharp. Don't let the clip farmers spoon-feed you a meme and call it analysis. If Drake makes the move I think he's lining up, the timeline is going to act surprised, the Suit Circus is going to act like it was their idea, and the culture is going to act like it saw it coming after the fact. You want to see it in real time. If you want the next video, I'll tell you exactly where this goes. The moment a top rapper stops chasing chart validation and starts chasing rights, the whole industry playbook flips. And there's one type of contract language that quietly decides who becomes a billionaire and who becomes a legend with bills. That video is going to feel uncomfortable because it's the part of the game nobody puts in the captions.